Yes! How are you today? It is a very momentous day for all of us because I believe that we are at a moment that a lot of us crypto enthusiasts have waited for. Specifically, we see the power of Bitcoin. The power of Bitcoin potentially becoming a real alternative for gold. So this is what I have envisioned with AI for our today's visual, right? How we feel and represent this moment. So you see here Bitcoin is working its way up. Let me go again. So we see here gold on the pedestal with $3,500 worth for gold. That was recently a top. But then we also have Bitcoin catching up. Broke $90,000 and it's going to go to all-time highs. I'm absolutely sure of it. And I'm really interested in what you think. Really interested in what you think. It's a very momentous time and moment. And I will just let you know that what Bitcoin represents is the opportunity to take advantage of this mindset shift, of this wealth shift, going from people who understand that the future is digital, that the future is on the blockchain. And we are still in a moment where you have the opportunity to partake in that power. It is a transfer of wealth from old money to new money, but also old money who will stay in the money. But you have a very unique chance right now to jump in on the train. The train is slowly leaving the station, but you still have time. It's just about recognizing that this is a trend that is going to shape the future in very powerful ways, because I have the strong conviction that Bitcoin is going to be a equal replacement for gold. If you think about it, gold comes from a time where we still rode on horses and we relied on carriages, taking gold into Fort Knox and those big banks, and they represented the country's reserves. But times are changing, and some of you may not really understand how massively times are changing. We are shifting into a digital age. We're shifting into an age where AI shapes our existence so much, whether we like it or not, that a lot of what we have known so far doesn't apply anymore. A lot of the ways how we think of work and free time doesn't apply anymore. And all of that shift happens by relying on blockchain technology. And all of that value creation and the transfer of the value, the derivatives of that value, they will all happen with crypto, for the sole purpose that the past system is just not fit to match the speed at which things happen. You need to be able to transfer information and keep track of it in split seconds across the globe, and yes, I believe across planets very soon. So the old system where we rely on a centralized bank or a centralized entity to capture that information and to capture that value is just not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And it will all rely on the blockchain technology and on crypto. As you know, Bitcoin is the father of all crypto. And just like, I don't know, 100, 2, 3, 400 days ago, actually probably way more, not days, years, probably way longer. I mean, the appreciation for gold goes back to ancient times, right? Just like it was important to realize that back then, it is important for you to realize that Bitcoin is the gold of the future. It cannot it it cannot remain the physical gold. It just cannot. But that's enough of me preaching about this from an ideological perspective. I think if you are watching this stream, you are at least considering the possibility that I'm right. So, what I want to talk about is the very unique opportunity to look at Bitcoin and say, to what extent will I embrace this? And there's several ways you can do that. One of the ways that is probably always going to be prudent and smart is to dollar cost average into Bitcoin. If you don't know where to start, if you don't know what dollar cost averaging means, if you don't know how to even go about buying Bitcoin, if you don't know what to expect, how far Bitcoin can go, I recommend going to crypto.lifestyle and entering your information. There's a few things that will happen there. You will sign up for a free masterclass where I teach you how I make 11% monthly on my capital, leveraging the trading activity. It's not trading that I use for my passive income. It is being the bank for the traders, essentially, with liquidity provisions. So you will get that, but you will also get a welcome email that points you to a video that teaches you dollar cost averaging. So that's what you can do as someone who wants to ease into this world. You can just dollar cost average. Then, of course, you can also become someone who's interested in investing and possibly even trading if you have the time for that. Trading requires a lot of time. But investing is essentially looking at an asset and saying, I think it is at a good price right now, and I'm going to buy into it and then sell it later at a profit. And right now, I believe that is the possibility to do so with Bitcoin. And I'm going to show you on the chart here in a moment why I think that is the case. The other option, of course, if you believe in the long-term viability of Bitcoin, the other option would be to just buy Bitcoin and never sell it again. This is a strategy that Michael Saylor does with MicroStrategy. He just banks on Bitcoin. He has the same conviction, probably even more than I have, that this is an asset that won't go anywhere. And yes, there will be ups and downs, but in the long run, this is an asset that will be appreciated at millions of dollars. Because remember, the one problem that we have with the fiat currencies across the globe is that they always lose value because of inflation. And inflation is not something that will go anywhere. Inflation is a monetary lever that the central banks across the globe use to regulate economies. And the truth of the matter is that that's about the only lever they have, right? Well, there's two. There's setting the interest rate with impacts inflation, and then also deciding how much they have on their own balance sheet and how much they want to release into the economy, known as QT, quantitative tightening, and quantitative easing, right? But yeah, so that's that. So let me know, by the way, if you are as convinced as I am that Bitcoin is here for the long run. Bitcoin basically represents the future. And also, if you have questions, let me know. Yeah, so let's look at what has happened here recently, specifically today. This is actually very, very timely. Very timely. So I'm going to bring up the Bitcoin chart for you. And before I do that, I want to show you something. Here, let me share this with you. Share the screen. And this one. Okay. So what you see here is a screenshot of CNBC, mainstream media, that was taken yesterday. And you can see that it says Bitcoin moves higher as stocks slide, which is very, very crazy because for a long, long time, Bitcoin was always correlated and coupled to the stock market, which of course represents the general economy. And we are thinking as a community that we are literally in the process of changing that. We call it the decoupling. That would be incredibly powerful because it would mean that we as a world have finally caught up with understanding that Bitcoin is to be the financial foundation of the future. Because what happens is generally the following: as the markets, investors, companies, institutional investors, as they get nervous, as they get they feel uncertain, they flee into security, they flee into safety. And that has been gold, essentially, and treasury bonds. But with the treasury bonds right now, they're not even considered safe and predictable because of what's going on with the tariff wars and that small worldwide economic war, right? So that is why if we look at the gold chart, and let's do that here. If we look at the price of gold, and I'm going to change to a daily time frame. I mean, look at this. This is a price movement that has done, nothing but go up, 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 up. And that's why I said it has very recently reached $3,500 in value. I mean, in a very short time frame. This is what we call parabolic growth, right? Let's look at how much time this was. So 14 days, so 2 weeks, a 16% increase, going from 3,000 to 3,500. This is absolutely crazy. Okay. So what this means, what this tells us is that ever since the end of December, people really felt like going into safety, going into something that is known to be the best investment in the long run to preserve wealth and to hedge against inflation. But I just made a case for you that that's going to be Bitcoin in the future. So if you think that it would have been cool to participate in this entire move, and I know this goes until 2017, right? But if you thought it would have been cool to be part of this move, guess what? If we look at Bitcoin and we compare it to gold, we're probably somewhere, I would say somewhere here, right? Relatively speaking. So you can still be part of this entire run up, and but you can only be part of it if you embrace it now. Because most people, what they do is they jump in here, right? They're too late. They're late adopters. Okay. So looking at the Bitcoin chart, here's what happened today. We're on a daily time frame here. Daily time frame. So, oh no, this is Bitcoin versus Ethereum. I want to look at Bitcoin alone. Okay, so here's what the situation was. This is at the beginning of the elections. Trump gets elected. We see the Trump pump, and then we have a long time going sideways. Here was an all-time high, 110,000. And then we went into a downtrend. And we have asked ourselves as a community, is this downtrend the beginning of the bear market? Or what is quite possible is that it's just Bitcoin taking a breather and there's another part of the bull run that we can enjoy, right? And I've told you in the past weeks that this year was the downtrend, and then we saw Bitcoin breaking through the downtrend, right? That happened in the past days here. And then we determined that it was going to be very, very important for Bitcoin to break this high here, which was last Wednesday's high. No, not last Wednesday, Wednesday, April 2nd. And Bitcoin just did that today. As a matter of fact, these two candles here represent Bitcoin for 2 days. Okay, so what kind of move is that? This is a 7.4% move. And what I think is going to happen now, I think Bitcoin will see there's absolutely no resistance to up until the 95,000 here. I mean, clearly this is going to be a level where we'll probably bounce off of and then even reject down, possibly down to 72, only to go back up. And we have to like fight here for a moment. Okay. That is one option that I see. The other one, which is also quite possible, believe it or not, the other one is that we will now break right through this and then build up support here and continue to new all-time highs still this bull run, still this year. That is also possible. But in the long run, really, it doesn't matter because we're just zoomed in on a very close time frame now. In the long run, what matters is the understanding that Bitcoin, as I keep saying, is replacing or at least becoming a valid equivalent and alternative to gold. So I showed you this. When mainstream media starts talking about this, now this is business media, right? But once it goes into CNN and then it trickles down into your daily talk shows, that's when really the fear of missing out by the masses is kicking in. And that's when these all-time highs are achieved. And I think I just have a gut feeling that this is going to happen right now. Something else that is very bullish right now is this here. So we have the money supply close to new all-time highs for the US, for China, for Japan, and for the European Union. And money supply is known as M2, by the way. We call M2, basically, think of it as all the money available in checking accounts of individuals, companies, institutions. And whenever that supply is high, that is very bullish for Bitcoin and crypto, because there is a correlation where Bitcoin is going behind the money supply for 100 days. I can actually show you that. So we would look at this chart and then overlay the M2 money supply. Let me see. So I go to indicators and I use the M2 Global Liquidity Index. Okay, so I overlay that, and then I let the information load. Let me see if I can switch to a dark theme, because that's easier for you to see. Okay, there we go. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to shift everything by offset everything by 105 days. And look what's happening. We see that there's almost, I mean, it's undeniably almost on the same track as Bitcoin. The yellow line being the M2 money supply index. But because it is offset by 105 days, it gives you a potential view into the future. And you can see it's actually playing out exactly like that, with Bitcoin being a little bit higher. So that means if we go up, if we put it exactly on top of it, see, isn't this crazy? Type in the chat crazy. Type in the chat crazy. So what that then means is, if Bitcoin follows the money supply index, we will see by July 150, let's give or take $150,000 Bitcoin. And Andrea says that is crazy. Okay. Now, it's all about probabilities, of course. It's all about probabilities. But the probability right now is high for this to play out. And even if it doesn't, my dear friends, it doesn't matter. You have to have, if you've ever wished for a chance to shift out of poverty or middle class into wealth, well, that doesn't happen overnight. It happens through investing. And one thing that I know the non-wealthy are not used to is seeing their investments fluctuate, right? They're not, they have, Gianluca says, this is very interesting. They have $1,000 in their bank account, and then when the investment drops, it shows $800 for a while, only to go up to 3,000 the following week. But people who are not used to investing, they cannot stomach that. They want to see the checking account at a very stable level. And I understand that. I really do. I really, really do. Don't get me wrong. I know that talking about this in theory and living through it as you need every single dollar or euro available is very different. But the opportunity is now. The opportunity is now. Because right now, Bitcoin is at 90, what is it right now? 91,000 essentially. And I mean, I don't think this will happen, but it could. It could be that we go to all-time highs and never come back down. That's a far stretch, but in the past, Bitcoin was always exposed to heavily exposed to the bull run and the bear run, and those contractions in the bear run were pretty brutal. Like we're talking 60-70% down again from all-time highs. That would mean we would see, after the bull run, we would see a $50,000 or $60,000 Bitcoin, which is most likely. But if this has really happened, this decoupling of Bitcoin from the economy, because it is looked upon as an alternative to gold, then that contraction in the bear phase might not be as violent anymore. That is a possibility. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it's a possibility. So Gianluca says they say it is the last chance to buy Bitcoin below 100K. That's the point I'm trying to make. And yes, that's one opinion. It doesn't have to be true. Doesn't have to be true. But there is a chance that that is indeed going to happen. So then, what is the whole point of me doing these lives? Because one thing that I want you to know is that I have shifted to the crypto lifestyle, and I live entirely off of my crypto earnings. It's essentially financial freedom. And yes, there's ups and downs in that, but I am living that lifestyle. So I'm not doing this. I'm not live right now because I need to. I'm live right now because I want as many of you as possible to consider embracing this new financial system. And I don't need you to jump in head first, you know. I need you to ease into it. And is Alex watching the stream? Well, here's the cool thing. Alex was to me years ago. If you think I am an early adopter, this guy was insanely early. So I think it was around 2016 or 2017 when we met, and Alex had something called the Bitcoin Beginner Box. The Bitcoin Beginner Box. And I bought his box, and it basically got me started on the journey. That I forget what I paid for it. Thank you. I don't know, maybe let's say $20. That $20 is probably responsible for me making investments under $10,000 that resulted in eventually turning into $500,000, $1 million. So thank you, Alex. Thank you so much. And that's what I'm trying to be to you all, everyone else is watching this stream. And the way I do it is I try to make it appealing for you to join the Crypto Alliance, to join the tribe. And the way I make it appealing is by creating something that gives you value where you can test the power of crypto. And one of the tests that I am putting out right now is this free masterclass that teaches you how I make 11% on my capital monthly by being a liquidity provider. And all of that is in a free masterclass. And you can get it, yes, you guessed right, by going here to crypto.lifestyle and entering your information. Much love to you, Alex. And oh, yeah. So you're telling me, can you prove it? Yes, I can. Here, one moment. I'm going to prove it to you. You see this? You see here what it says? Daily reward here, $495. Okay. Now, this is what I'll teach you if you go to crypto.lifestyle and you take the free masterclass. If you want different results in life, you have to start doing different things. Okay. Let me see if you want any other questions, comments, concerns, put them in the chat. I even have LinkedIn up here on my left-hand side because I know that my streaming software doesn't import LinkedIn comments, but I see you here. If not, then, hopefully, oh, by the way, this is the page that's behind Crypto Lifestyle. Let me make that bigger again here for you. Like so. There we go. So you go to Crypto Lifestyle, crypto.lifestyle, and then you have a little intro video. And then here, look, there's people who already took the course. And then you put your information in here. So do that, please. Do that. All right, I don't see anything else. I'm extremely excited. Extremely excited. I'm looking at the Bitcoin price. Let's take another look together. And let me remove this. Okay. And let's go to a 4-hour time frame. And I'm going to remove that M2 global money thing. And I'm going to zoom in. Yeah. I mean, it's just going to push up, keep pushing up until it hits 95K. Very likely it will reject. It will go down a little bit. Hopefully only back down to here. A lower low would be really nice. So this is what I would really love. This is what my Bitcoin heart would like to see. Here, rejection, lower low, and then push through. Okay, that's what my Bitcoin heart would like to see. Now, I think there's a chance we get that. But there's also a possibility we get here rejection back to like 72 and then our breakthrough. That's all possible in crypto. You have to have thick skin. So Gianluca says, do you think Ethereum might go into a recovery? I have high hopes for Ethereum, to be honest. It's a little bit the ugly duckling here right now. And by the way, the reason I have all of these things here on my Ethereum chart is because I'm providing liquidity for Ethereum. But I mean, it's doing well. Look, here's the thing. If we look at a very high time frame of Ethereum, like what we see in crypto always is the law of thermodynamics. You have a hard push to the lower boundary and it bounces up. Then it goes back down, bounces up. And now it's kind of, I mean, it's down. It can go further down, don't get me wrong. But at some point the bounce up is going to come. Unless Ethereum is a relic or becomes a relic, which I don't know if that is going to be the case. I don't think so, though. I really don't think so. A lot of smart people say Solana will replace Ethereum because Solana already does everything faster and better than what Ethereum is trying to do. I know that's a valid perspective, but I don't know. By the way, Gianluca, what you want to always do is compare the asset to Bitcoin, not to US dollar, because it gives you a better idea of how it competes and performs against Bitcoin. So this chart is here Ethereum against USDT, but if we look at Ethereum against Bitcoin, we have this. So what does this tell us? Well, I can see that ever since 2022, Ethereum lost out against Bitcoin. Okay. But I can also see that there is a very, very, very serious lower support level here. That, I mean, if this support level is not observed, then Ethereum is really in trouble. What you can see is that there was almost a parabolic down, and often as a reaction, again, law of thermodynamics, we get a parabolic inverse reaction. So it's definitely a reason to be optimistic for Ethereum. You might need a little patience because these movements don't happen perfectly overnight, but they do happen, right? And could we go a little lower still? Yes. Look, I mean, at some point here, the price went to that lower area of this red rectangle that I've drawn. So yeah, it's possible for it to even go down even lower and then jump up. But yeah, I do think it will recover. You just need to have a little bit more patience. But if there was ever a time to be bullish on Ethereum based on technical analysis against Bitcoin, it's now. Clearly, it's now. So thank you for your question, Gianluca. All right, so I'll go back to my daily business. Oh, you're very welcome, Gianluca. I'm going back to my daily business, which right now consists of the following. I basically trade less and I spend more time with those liquidity provisions, because what they do is, as others trade in and out and get maybe chopped in and out, I just collect those trading fees. That's essentially what liquidity provisioning is you are the bank for this ecosystem. Again, I highly recommend you just go and look at the free course. That's why I made it. Okay, be well, and I'll see you again on this channel likely tomorrow. Over and out for now. Thank you.